I'm not gonna lie to you, I haven't even moved my stuff away from this morning because I'm well aware that the time difference is a bit shit from England to the UK. So I was like, right, do you know what? They say if you can't take the mountain to Muhammad, take Muhammad to the mountain. I'm not sure if I even got that right. But it's 4 p.m. and I was like, do you know what? I'm gonna do an evening Q&A for me where I often have a lot less energy, and I'm gonna see whether or not this is more preferred than my traditional morning time. I've had a nap, I've got a coffee, so I'm ready to go. Please do make it aware if you preferentiate this time. So yeah, first thing we're gonna talk about is ketogenic diet. There are still people that ask me on my questions about the ketogenic diet. So I'm just gonna very quickly, sorry I didn't close the door. Very quickly go through what it is and how it works differently. We're gonna try and get this in under a minute. I'm also low-key just trying to load up the questions on my laptop. So when I look down, it's because I'm loading the live, found it, cool. Let me pin my link, then we're into it. All right, so a lot of you will have heard about the ketogenic diet. I know a lot of usual avid watchers will be like, oh, here we go again. Some people strive for a state of ketosis. When dieting, they think it's going to be superior to a traditional calorie deficit. It's not. Anecdotally, some people do report being less hungry in a state of ketosis. Well, what is a state of ketosis? Now, if you lower the amount of glucose or carbohydrates that you consume in your diet low enough, the body will have to synthesize something to replace it. So if something called your glucose availability goes too low, the body's like, fuck, we haven't got any glucose. And it's the brain's preferred source of fuel. So it produces something called ketones. Now, ketones are produced from fat. Now, not necessarily body fat, but dietary fats. So if you were to eat, bacon and cheese and butters, like a lot of people on the ketogenic diet do, you are just eating a different food group that's getting converted into something slightly different that's going to be utilized as energy. If you give two people the same amount of calorie deficit, sorry, let me close this. Fucking loud bastards. So if you give people the same caloric restriction diet, they won't lose fat at different rates because, you don't get an Uber surcharge in a state of ketosis. Now, another important fact is that being low carb or striving for a state of ketosis will affect your weight more so than your fat amount. Now, unfortunately, we live in a world where people seem to think that all weight loss is fat loss, and it's not. So if you do go or strive for a state of ketosis, you will reduce carbohydrates to nearly zero. Now, the implications that has on the body is that we store a lot of carbohydrates in muscles ready to be used. This is known as glycogen. Now, glycogen is made up of 1 gram of carbohydrate and 3 to 5 grams of water. So there's a considerable amount of water that is held, not in a bad way, just in muscle tissue to be used. So if you go keto or if you go very low carb, in the onset of dieting, a tremendous amount of that weight that you lose is water, it's not fat. So, your friends that have done keto and they're like, oh my God, I've lost 4 kilograms in the first week or whatever it is, a lot of that is just water. Now, giving up carbohydrates does not make your diet better, especially if you're just filling it full of fats. You can't even really go keto on a high protein diet because if you consume too much protein on a ketogenic diet, you start converting excess protein into carbohydrates through gluconeogenesis, which is a fancy word, makes me look smart. And so, yeah, at the end of the day, we say fuck keto. It's no better than anything else. It can make your breath stink. It's unsustainable in my eyes, and it does not allow you to live a good quality of life. Some people really only got into the ketogenic diet realm through trying to reduce frequency of seizures and epileptics, and I don't even think that we have enough evidence to say that that's a thing. So there is the James Smith Guide to the Ketogenic Diet. If you haven't hit like, please hit like already. If you haven't hit share, please hit share. Jason, where did all the recent snowflakes start appearing from? I think it's just a little movement that's occurring of people getting offended. But to be honest, mate, I like playing into it. I think it's very entertaining for the rest of you that are normal people that do find this funny. And gunning the snowflakes it's good entertainment. And I must admit that a considerable amount of my work must still be entertaining for you. It looks like this is quite a popular time, so I will try my best to maintain this time. Bought your book last week. Thank you, Moz Abdullah. Okay, let's have a look. I'm doing keto at the minute. I have a fight on Saturday and need to lose water weight. Yeah, that's interesting, but you won't be doing keto after your fight, will you? After weigh-ins, you're going to be having, normal food. So you're probably not doing keto. You're probably doing very low carb, Oscar. It takes a few weeks of being very low in carbohydrates for ketosis to occur. All right, I've just unpinned my fucking link, haven't I? Hold on, here we go. Here we go, pin, there you go, there's the thing for the thing. All right, once you fall off keto wagon, you could eat your own legs, and I don't understand what that means. Morning, James, any tips for menopause belly? Tough one. Any of you ladies that are soon to be facing menopause, my best advice is to consider hormone replacement therapy. It's going to be a tough one. Your fat distribution is going to change when you go through menopause. Here we go. Mate, no, gluconeogenesis is demand driven. You are lying. I'm not, mate. Should the body need to, or that's why, mate, if you go onto like even ketogenic forums, the reason that you have a medium protein diet is because if you eat a high protein diet, whilst carbohydrates are very low, gluconeogenesis will occur. Why would I lie? Why would I lie about that? It's why some people call them ketards. I never call them ketards, you know. Political corrected, you can't call someone a ketard because it sounds way too much like the word. I'm not even gonna say it because there are some people on here that are gonna screen record that, make me look like a bad person. For or Eddie in the boxing? Apparently Eddie's moving a bit better. I've not really been watching it too much. So yeah. All right, let's have a look. Hi from Sri Lanka. Hello, Sri Lanka. Got into ketosis in 2 days. I've tested it. Pissing on a stick, have you? I'm not sure how accurate those things are, but you might have got there in a couple of days. It's good. It's good. All right. I know deficit is the most important factor, but what is the best macro breakdown? So many different opinions. I'm currently doing. Okay, so when it comes to macronutrient breakdowns, your macros, right? The only important thing out of all three is protein. That is it. So your protein is the only real factor that's going to influence fat loss. Carbohydrates and fats, whether you go high fat or low carb, you're still going to feel the same constituent part of macronutrients. Now, so that's down to personal preference. If you go high carb, it won't make any difference to high fat. It might influence your body weight, but it won't really make a difference. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Good morning from Norway, Skull. All right, let's have a look. Let's have a look. Where'd you get the bulk of your protein intake from? Meat and protein shakes, almost. All right, let's have a look. Can you target a certain area to lose fat from? Thighs? No, you can't. Although, like I said before, if you were gonna train your right leg, right? If say I'm training that area and it was to require energy after, it's depleted of glycogen, my right leg isn't gonna go to my left leg for energy, but it's gonna be such what's the word I'm looking for? An unimportant amount, negligible amount that it's not worth losing sleep over. So if you wanna lose fat, lose fat. If you wanna lose back fat, thigh fat, calf fat, arm fat, head fat, just lose fat. What do you think of the powder Prove It on the market now? They say you drink keto within an hour in ketosis. It's a load of bollocks. Exogenous ketones are a load of bollocks. Even if you were to get into a state of ketosis, then what? So if you understand that what ketosis is where there's ketones circulating in the bloodstream. The only reason ketones are circulating in your bloodstream is because your body has produced them from fat that you have eaten. And the reason that it has produced ketones from fat you have eaten is because you have not eaten carbohydrates. Does that make sense? So, you're literally just using a different corridor. Left corridor, consume glucose through into the prepared in the stomach, into the bloodstream through the intestines. Glucose circulates, the pancreas secretes insulin. Insulin comes to get that glucose and puts it into a cell, whether it's fucking, fat cell, muscle cell, brain cell. On corridor number right, we've got consume dietary fats. Body has very low glucose availability. Dietary fats produce ketone bodies circulate in the bloodstream to be utilized as energy. Does that make sense? So like even a lot of people that thought it was better for endurance. We now know that it kind of hasn't got any benefits. That there's no real scenarios where the ketogenic diet would benefit anyone. Jill, very surprised at the blanket recommendation of HRT given the massive health issues it causes, and especially with the blood clotting issues due to COVID, eating real food, avoiding alcohol and exercising work to mitigate menopause symptoms. Okay, yeah, but, right. So for a start, if we were going to look at, and I'm not telling people they need to get HRT, I'm telling them to look into it. Now, unfortunately, a lot of women are not really educated into the hormonal changes that occur through menopause and the implications that that has to their physique. Now, if you look at, yes, there are, I concede there are some health implications of HRT, one of which I think, we can say is an increased chance of perhaps developing breast cancer. Now, that's terrible, I get that, but so many factors are in your control of mitigating that chance from happening when on HRT. Now, if you listen for a second, and again, I'm not qualified to say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Looking at hormone replacement therapy versus the alternative of not doing hormone replacement therapy, if you do not go down the route of HRT, you are much more inclined to gain weight and you are much more inclined to develop type 2 diabetes. Now, if obesity and type 2 diabetes are more prevalent by doing nothing, if you were to then look at COVID complications, hospitalization rates, obesity, and the impact that type 2 diabetes has on people with complications with COVID, I think it's irresponsible for you to say that you shouldn't consider HRT, because both avenues you go down are going to have health implications. But surely people are going to have, if you're going to even sit in the camp of exercising, staying active, keeping your body composition in the right place, that's going to be much easier for women to do if they're on hormone replacement therapy. So, I disagree. We can have a healthy debate. It's not a blanket recommendation, it's an awareness. If you are approaching menopause and you have not considered HRT, please speak to a specialist. The women that I train and that I have trained within that, age bracket, across the board, a lot of people have had a better time, in my experience, of being on HRT. So there you go. Could I be wrong? I could be wrong. But there you go. There you go. How do you reverse insulin resistance? Very good question. Okay, so this is quite a deep live, but I hope you're enjoying it. If you have hit like, please hit like already. If you haven't hit share, hit share. So when looking at diabetes, there are two different types of diabetes. We have type 1 and type 2. Now, type 1 is an autoimmune disorder. There is no choice with type 1 diabetes. In type 1 diabetes, the pancreas does not produce insulin and glucagon kind of in the way that it should. And if the pancreas can't produce insulin, we have an issue there where any glucose that is consumed is going to elevate blood sugar, and people have to self-administer insulin to ensure that they bring their blood sugar back down. Alternatively, should their blood sugar go too low, they need to eat sweets to bring it back up. So if you imagine there's an optimal range for blood sugar, type 1 diabetics have to self-manage that. It's quite severe. They don't have a choice. So please don't shame people that have type 1 diabetes. In almost all cases, it's not their fault. So type 1 to the side. Type 2 diabetes is different. Now, type 2 diabetes used to be called adult onset diabetes. It's not called that anymore because of the amount of children that are developing it. Now, in essence, type 2 diabetes is caused through this. When we consume foods, like I mentioned before, we consume foods, the stomach prepares it for digestion. After the stomach, it's pushed to the intestines. In the intestines, food passes its way to the anus, right? But as it does that, nutrients goes into the bloodstream. So as nutrient goes into the bloodstream, it's circulated. Now, there are various hormones like insulin that are going to allow glucose from that bloodstream to pass into other areas. But in essence, we have energy in the blood that gets on and gets off. So you see your circulatory system being like the London Underground. So the London Underground only works because people get on and people get off. There's not too many people on there. Now, if you live a life that's very sedentary, where you don't move, that doesn't allow people to get off the London Underground. Now, if you're someone that overconsumes the amount of calories that they need on a daily basis, you are someone that's letting too many passengers on the train. Now, should too many passengers get on the train, that's an issue. So then we have a protective mechanism called body fat. Body fat is a protective mechanism. So when there are too many people on the train, body fat, almost like an extra train station, says, yo, you guys get off, chill here, let's wait until the train's emptier, and then we'll get you guys back on the train. So that's what body fat does. However, Should years of sedentary lifestyles, years of eating too much, all accrue together and you use body fat and you take advantage of this organ to the point that you get very, very overweight, very soon body fat can't even do its job. So if you do not have body fat doing its job, taking energy from the bloodstream, you're going to be left with a tremendous amount of passengers frustrated on a train. When that occurs, you get tested for type 2 diabetes by doing a blood prick, but they do the blood prick whilst you're fasted. Now, if there is glucose in high levels in the bloodstream during a fasted state, that's indicative that energy is not leaving the bloodstream. Glucose has not got anywhere to go. So then your body's in this tough position where energy's in the bloodstream, it produces insulin. Insulin can't do its job because it's got nowhere to put the energy. It starts producing more insulin. And when this insulin kind of mechanism stops working and it starts creating dysfunction, we start moving into tiers of insulin resistance. When your tier of insulin resistance gets to a certain classification, you're now looking at being type 2 diabetic or pre-type 2 diabetic, then type 2 diabetic. Hopefully you're still with me. So when you get to that point of type 2 diabetic, it is reversible. If you start exercising more, passengers off, and implementing a caloric deficit, not letting any more passengers on, you can very quickly, you can improve insulin resistance at a muscle site just by training it. The primary key balance for this must be caloric restriction and exercise. Should you do that, you can allow this passengers getting on and off the train system to work a lot more efficiently. Reduction of body fat must be the key imperative thing that you do, because then what you're doing is less passengers getting on, more passengers getting off, happier train guards, which is like your insulin or whatever it is. So yeah, let me get into a few more questions. Hopefully you like that. If you haven't hit like already. If you haven't hit share, please hit share. I know a few people have commented about HRT. Let's have a look. It was required for me after cancer, but you have to weigh up the quality of life without it. It's your choice and definitely helps you keep weight down. I think that's the main consensus, isn't it? That HRT is going to allow you to keep the amount of fat that you have in your body down. And, you know, yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Again, it's not my decision to make. I wasn't saying to people, you need to do this. I struggle with weight loss. I've taken thyroxine. It's going to be tough again. If you're on thyroxine, it could be a conversation with your doctor to ensure you're taking the right amount. But again, it's tough for me. All right, loving the academy. Can't wait for the next challenge, even though we haven't finished the current one. Yeah, the current challenge is on for about another week. Then after that, we are going to be launching a new challenge. I will give you a link for the challenge. It's on the website if you need it. If you go to jamesmithacademy.com, you click on challenge, you can register, and I'll notify you when the next challenge starts. Okay, what do you think of leptin supplements? Lepton supplements. I don't know what that is, if I'm honest. One of the best explanations I've ever heard. Thank you very much. Thanks for the explanation. No worries. That's how I learn it as well. Thanks for my question. Let's have a look. Signed up for the challenge. What are we in for? Mate, it's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it. If I can come on holiday with whoever wins, I will. I've still owe 2 groups of people a trip to Bali from pre-COVID. But yeah, I can't wait to for travel to reopen so that we can start doing trips to Bali again. All right, guys, we're gonna keep that one where it is. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'll try getting on these times as often as I can. But before you disappear, please go to jamesmithacademy.com. From there, just download the app. It's free. There is a new challenge starting in the next few weeks. From the website, if you click on challenge, there's a little bit more information about it. Do register, do download the app, do create an account. It's completely free. There are some videos on there. There's a calorie calculator on there that I want you to use. There's a few training programs on there that you can get access to, just so you can see how the app works, how my business works, how it all operates. I think you'll be very pleased with what you see. I'll try and get on here same time tomorrow. If you have any other questions that you think are urgent after you downloaded the app, feel free to email me. Cool. Guys, thank you very much. Appreciate you all tuning in. Speak to you later. Bye-bye.